everybody, welcome to, yeah, you guessed it, yet another video. So today we're having a look at the Avalon A30, which is their minigun. It's a 1.2 version, so being as it's a 1.2, it has a CH cap. They also do a 1.0mm version and a 0.8mm version, which actually has an FX cap. Now I did an unboxing video on both of these guns, this 1.2 and the I've got a 1.0 with an FX cap, and when I did the unboxing I did some pattern tests like I normally do with these unboxing videos, and there was a discrepancy with the 1.0 in that it was I can't remember if it was bottom heavy or top heavy, but when obviously it caught me by surprise. So when I finished the video, when I got some time, I experimented with different settings on the gun and turning the cap round the other way like you would do. You know, if it's bottom heavy and there's a problem with the cap, normally you turn it around the other way and it would become top heavy, not bottom heavy. Trying different things like that, and it ended up being it just wasn't possible to get it right, to get a good even pattern, which was actually really surprising because these guns are really, really well made. They really are. I'm putting these in the same sort of bracket as I put the Meiji guns, you know, the higher end Meiji guns. So the Meiji Finer Force and the Meiji Finer Core guns. They really do seem to be made at that sort of level. So as I say, it really took me by surprise that it wasn't quite performing right. So, as I said at the end of the unboxing video, I will contact Avalon and see what they say, which is exactly, I didn't actually buy it from Avalon, but I thought I'd contact them just to see what they say, really. And they said that it shouldn't be like that. It should be an even pattern. And originally, when the first batch was produced, there was a slight problem, which they obviously didn't realise until they went out. So they've bought them back effectively. So the upshot of it is I will be getting a replacement. I haven't got it yet, but I will be getting a replacement. So I'll bring you an update on it and see what that's actually like. But the 1.2 is absolutely no problems with at all. And it's a lovely little gun. So that's why I'm doing the review on it. This is just a couple of panels which were a real pain, really, because they were a lot of work. But the guy assures me that he just couldn't get replacements. So we did them as best we could. I mean, they come out lovely, to be fair, but it's a lot of mucking about for two relatively small items. But if you can't get the stuff, then you need to repair them, or just not have them at all. So that's what we did. We did a free stage, so it's a white free stage. And for anybody that doesn't know, a free stage is simply the base coat stage is actually two. Normally it's a base colour, which in this case is a white. It's going over a white. I used white primer because you would normally use a white primer over a white top coat. So we used white primer, which you don't see. That's a different process. I'm not sure whether I actually videoed that or not, but it may come up in another video at another time. And then we're using base coat, which you see me now warming up. And why I mention that, I do warm up the base coats these days and the clear coats and also the primers, and it works really well, but I'm sure it's dangerous, so I don't recommend doing it. But it does helps the base coat go off faster, so it picks up less little bits, and with a clear coat it really helps it flow out better. I'll put a link in the description as well to a video I did about clear coat, because of all the things I've been mentioning recently in my newer videos. I used to leave this stage out, but I've put it in now. I thought it might be controversial. It gets on some people's nerves, fair enough, but it does actually really work. And of all the things I've put in videos, it's one of the things now that people are saying, yeah, you know, I started heating my clear coat up, I started heating my base coat up, and it works wonders. And it really does work. But as I say, just be careful how you actually heat it up. So going back to the stages, I said we use white primer, and then you have a base coat, which is normally, in this case it's a white, but it can be whatever colour it is. And then you normally have, it's normally like a pearlescent coat over the top. and that's still classed as obviously the base coat stage, and then you'll put a clear coat, and that seals it all in and gives it the protection against UV, etc., and also gives it the shine. It's difficult to actually see how well it applies with a white, because you have to catch the light just right. Anybody that's seen like a 3-stage white will understand that you just need to get the light right to actually see the pearlescent effect of the paint. So one of the things you need to remember when you're doing little plastic things like this is that you need to make sure that you've got some way of securing the work. Now, you obviously need to be able to spray all the edges and all the sides, etc. So it needs to be off the floor so that you can get to those edges. Otherwise you'll get a small build up of paint and it will stick slightly to the floor. So each, or the base, whatever the base is. So each time you try and lift it up, you'll get a little bit of a rough edge effectively. So you need to have something that will bring it off the deck, and then that allows the gun to go down the side. Now, as I said, there are only 2 small components, and this isn't the only time I've used this gun, but I thought it would be a good video to put up just to show you something that was not, most of the stuff I do are bike tanks normally, because they're things that are quite expensive to repair, and they're worth repairing basically. But it was something I had to do, and I thought, no, it'd make a reasonable video just to be a bit different. But what I've discovered with the A30 is, apart from the extraordinary build quality, it's actually very, very good. Very good. It is more of what I would call a midi gun than a minigun, in that it's one of those guns like the Kiwami 1 NSI Waters. The ANI Compact is a bit like it as well, and it actually draws away from the traditional what you call mini, and it just enters into that what I call midi range, which is not a full-size gun, but it performs faster and puts out more material than the smaller guns. The Meiji Finer Force is another gun of that sort of type. So it's actually capable of, although we're doing small stuff here, it's actually capable of doing a fair bit. If you was doing like 2 or 3 panels at a time, you're respraying a car. And the reason I say that is because quite a few people message me with that sort of SP, that sort of thing they want to do. I'm refurbishing a old Land Rover or whatever it may be. What was it, the guy the other day? A Saab 900, I think. And he wanted to do it like 2 panels at a time. And you know, you will be able to do 2 panels at a time with most spray guns, even the mini guns. Somebody was telling me the other day that in fact it was somebody, it's a company that I've recently discovered called the Spray Gun Company, and I was talking to him, and he was saying that somebody did a complete respray with a DV1S. Now, hopefully they used the 1.2 and not 1.0, or even the micro version, but it's quite a tall order to do something like that, because it's very, very time consuming, and I'm sure you would fatigue would set in. I don't necessarily mean physical wise, I mean you just want to get the job done. So this sort of gun is much, much faster than something like a DV1S. It's just more of everything really. So it definitely falls into the midi range. Atomization on it is really, really fine. I used it at 2 bar, which I found absolutely perfect. As far as I know, it's also the recommended pressure. The manufacturers do a lot of testing, so the recommended pressure they give you is always a really good point to start. Often you will end up settling at that sort of pressure because, as I said, they put a lot of effort in research and development, and you know, they know their onions basically most of the time. So if they recommend 2 bar, try it at 2 bar. You may want it a little bit more, you may want it a little bit less. It will depend on the conditions you have, and by that I mean the weather, the humidity, the temperature, etc. And it will also depend on the material you are spraying. You know, a lot of people ask me, what's the best minigun? for example, and that's all they say. What's the best minigun? Hi Pete, I've been watching your videos. Normally it's Instagram people contact me on. Hi Pete, I've been watching your videos on YouTube. Why they contact me on Instagram, I don't know, because you'd be better off contacting me on through YouTube, because if you contact me through YouTube, then other people see the answers as well, and it just spreads the knowledge, and they may well be thinking exactly what you're asking, and the answer's there, because a lot of people do read the comments. But yeah, people will say, hi Pete, I've been watching your videos on YouTube, and I need your advice. What's the best mini gun to go for? And that's it, that's all you get. So you've got, you know, are they willing to spend 400 quid or 20 quid, or, you know, it's really, really difficult. You need to know the information. You need to know the size of the compressor, what they actually want to do with it, what material they're spraying, etc., etc. So there's a lot of different things to make up what a gun can be good with, if that makes sense. So the materials you're using it with does have a bearing on what gun will be best for what you're doing. Seems obvious, but a lot of people don't realise that a lot of the time. Yes, most of it is an overlap in that, you know, a good base gun will be generally good with all base coats, etc. But they do vary in their viscosities, and of course, you know, people's conditions vary greatly as well. So it's not just a clear case of which minigun's best, but certainly this thing is really, really good. It's really I'm pleased actually that I've got a minigun that isn't overly expensive, can do bigger things. It's definitely up there for me with the Meiji finer forces, and that goes for build quality as well. As I said, to compare these to the Meiji is actually, for Avalon anyway, in my book, is a big feather in their cap, because I've always regarded the Meiji guns as the probably the best made guns I've got, and I've got most makes of gun, not all makes of gun, but I've certainly got most makes of gun. So as far as build quality goes, I think they're really, really good, and performance wise this thing's been excellent. One other thing I've found with this, when I was actually doing the you see me doing the they call it a ground coat and then a mid coat. Mid coat is obviously the coat that's between the clear and the ground coat. Makes sense, I guess. One of the things I found when I used it for base coats, I used it about 1.8 bar, and it's generally with me a rule of thumb. If something works well for clear coat at about 2 bar, and I know the purists would be saying, well, you should have a separate gun for clear and you should have a separate gun for base coat, and I agree fully, you should have a separate gun for each. But a lot of people don't want, can't afford, don't need separate guns for each. If you want to buy, you're better off buying one quality gun and keeping it clean and using it for both, than buying 2 mediocre guns so that you've got one for base and one for clear. So in my book, it's absolutely fine to use one gun for 2 different things. As long as you keep it clean, it's absolutely fine. So going back to what I was saying about using it about 1.8 bar, and as a rule of thumb, I tend to, if something is good for clear coat at about 2 bar, I normally find knocking it down about 0.2 of a bar, which is, so going down from 29 psi to about 25 or 26, normally lays the base coat down really, really well. I don't like it supremely flat because I prefer to put the clear coat on nice and flat, and I think that slightly rougher edge on the base coat may sound odd and it may sound contrary to what you might think, but I think the slightly rougher edge on the base coat gives the clear coat something to grip hold of, and when you actually apply the clear coat, you can't see the fact that the base coat wasn't maybe as smooth as it could have been, if that makes sense. So I don't see the need to lay base coat super flat, although a lot of people seem to like it. And I know it's chemical reaction as well, in that if the base coat is still fresh. It's dry to the touch, not that you should touch it, but it's dry to the touch. But the clear coat adheres better to the base coat when it's fresh, and it's sort of like a more of a chemical reaction as well as anything else, which is why you don't leave base coat. And I know some people say to me, oh no, my base coat says 24 hours, but most base coats, I certainly like to put my clear coat on over the base within about half an hour to an hour, maximum really, maybe 2 hours. But it definitely lasts longer if you make that base coat it makes that base coat more receptive, so it definitely lasts longer, and the clear coat just adheres to it better. And I think having a slightly rougher edge also makes it adhere better, because after all, you're after longevity as well. It's great something looking good, isn't it? But it's no good if it looks crap in, you know, I don't know, 6 months or whatever. It needs to last, and that's the idea of me putting the base coat on normally at a lower pressure. It just doesn't need that much higher pressure. So this was exactly the same. I used it initially at 2.5 out. That's 2.5 turns out, so turn the fluid control all the way in so the needle's completely tight, and then I backed it off about 2.5 turns. And one of the things I will say is that the small markings on the controls with these, they've got, I think it's 1 to 10. It goes round on both the controls for the fluid and for the fan as well. I thought that was a bit of a gimmick, but it actually isn't. I found that works really well when you're sort of like fine-tuning things. Especially if you're doing with minis and that, sometimes I have to turn the fan in because I'm doing the inside of something or just the outer edge of something, and you don't want a big fan because otherwise paint's going everywhere and it's just a waste of material. So you do wind it in a bit, and I don't like using guns wound in too much because I think you don't get as good at atomization with it wound in. A gun normally is better working, it's not always the case, but normally it's better working all the way out. So normally I'll have the fan all the way out, but if you're sort of like dialing it in to a certain level, and you think no, the fan's just right there, and then you have to dial it out again to do a bigger area, and then you want to go back to get the fan the same size as you had before, it's really good to have the fine measurements there so that you can just turn it in. You think, no, I had it on number 2, so you turn it to number 2, and it worked really well. So what I thought was a gimmick actually turned out to be really good, and it looks quite smart as well. But I used it 2.5 turns out for the initial base coat, and the reason for that, like in a lot of my videos, these are repairs, so although they're primed, I just take it easy. There's no need, it's just a white, so it's not metallic or anything like that, so there's no need to put too much on. You shouldn't get a reaction, but where you've had these panels were cracked and I've repaired them, where you sand down, the primer gets quite thin, although there's still a small amount of primer there. You need to just be careful so that you don't get a reaction, really, because it's a solvent base coat that I'm using, and it worked fine at 2.5 out, so that's what I did. And you just do an extra coat, really, as long as it's going on wet, then it is absolutely fine. And for the pearlescent coat, I used it at 3.5 out. For the clear coat, I used it on full fluid, and when you go to full fluid, from all the way in, it's actually got 6.5 turns of proper adjustment. And by proper adjustment, which is the wrong word really, but it's the only word I can think of, I mean of linear adjustment. So each time you're turning that little bit extra, that needle is coming back further, so there's a really big range of adjustment you can have. So if you want to fine tune it, it's perfectly possible, and it only goes to add to the feeling that you get. This thing is like a quality precision tool. Yeah, it just gives you confidence and feedback. If you're looking at a person painting, you will often see a sort of what I call a flow, and you'll see the action of their hand. And when they're enjoying something and something's going well, it sort of sweeps along, and you will see the confidence that the painter has got in his application. And a lot of that is down to the gun. If you've got a gun that's giving you a good feedback and it's going on well, everything's looking good, it will inspire confidence in you. And again, that's what this gun does, because it feels good in the hand, it looks good, you know it's made well, it's performing well, it just gives you a lot of confidence. Simple as that. Now, going on to air consumption, because I know a lot of people ask about air consumption, particularly with minis. I reckon this is about 7 CFM. In fact, I don't know whether, let me look, what do Avalon say? Avalon say that this is, are they going to put it in litres per minute? 180, so 6.7 CFM. And I reckon, yeah, I reckon it's got 7 CFM on my sort of guessometer, which isn't too bad actually. It's normally pretty good. So it's not a low air consumption minigun. So an LPH 80, for example, with the E4 cap will use about 2.2 CFM, and something like the Devilbiss SRI Pro Lite, or Pro Lite S as it's now called, with the TE5 cap, that will use 3.8 CFM, and with HV5 cap it's about 4.5 CFM. And yes, I have got all these in my head, so it is rather sad, isn't it? But yeah, so it's on the higher end of air consumption. Something like the Meiji guns, the finer forces, they will consume between 6.5 and 7.5 CFM. So it is firmly in that midi gun range. I think I said midi gun, but it is firmly within that range. So it's a really good compromise. If you haven't got if you've got a really small compressor, it's not going to work. But if you haven't got a big compressor, but you still got quite a bit to do, and you want a good quality spray gun, then this would definitely fit the bill. The thread for the PPS adapter is actually the same as the WS400. So I think that's an S, I can't remember what it is actually, but if you just look up for the WS400, LS400, Kiwami 4, W300 WB, W300, Kiwami 3, all those all take the same fitting, as this as well. So it'd be easy to get a PPS adapter if you needed extra ones. But if you look at the unboxing video, you'll see that Avalon actually give you a PPS adapter, and it's also got a slight modification at the top, which is a really nice touch, in that it will actually fit the starter pots. I don't know whether it fits the brand new type starter pot, because I think I don't use them, but they've just changed their system, I think. But it incorporates that as well, so it actually fits the old style PPS, or original PPS 1, and it fits the starter pots as well. You get that with the gun. You also get a reasonably good quality gauge, and when I say reasonably good, for a non-diaphragm regulator, it's actually not bad quality really. I reckon it's the same as the NSI Water ones, so a reasonable quality gauge, and nice and short as well, so it doesn't give you too long a tail. And by that I mean, you know, the more you have hanging off the bottom of the spray gun, the longer the rigid tail gets, and that can be a problem, especially if you're doing cars and you're in a garage or something like that, and you're doing the door shuts and the seals. If that tail is too long and too hard, it hits the floor, if that makes sense. So you have to angle the spray gun, which is not the end of the world, but often it's not quite the way you want it, especially if it's a gravity fed spray gun. So worth having a shorter setup at the bottom if you can, for, you know, general work. And it also means it makes it more flickable as well. It's just easier to maneuver if you're doing small parts like this as well. So yeah, I was thoroughly impressed with the gun and the build quality and everything really. The atomization is really good. I will get another, and it won't be for a while, so don't put messages up saying we need it now, as some people have been doing with some of the videos. I will put up a revised minigun video probably around Christmas time or something. I'm working on a base coat video first, a top 12 or 10 or whatever base coat video, and then I'll do re-look at the miniguns, because this gun will certainly be in it. Where, I don't know, and don't ask me, because it works. It's not just personal feeling, it's price, performance, air consumption, loads of other things that actually give it a ranking. And if anybody hasn't seen my top 12 videos, then there's a link in the description should you wish to do. But yeah, as I say, I've been thoroughly impressed with it. They have a small gasket at the front, which again, if you look at the unboxing video, you'll see what I mean. Similar to what the GTI Pro Lite and things like that use, and it's a pain really sometimes. But what I found the best way when I'm cleaning the gun now, what I do is I just hold the baffle in place. I do my normal cleaning with I take the tip out, etc. When I clean the gun. But what I try and do is I try and just hold my fingers over the baffle, to hold the baffle and the gasket in, and then just put some air through the gun, because I always put air through the gun. I know SATA recommend it on their digital guns, because otherwise you can get material going back up the gun and actually going into the gauge. And I tend to do it with all guns these days. It just stops stuff going into the gun, where you're cleaning it. And I just hold the baffle with my fingers and put the air through, and then it saves disturbing that gasket. You do get some with it. You get another 3, I think, with the gun. Again, in the unboxing video, it tells you exactly what you get. But yeah, I haven't had to change it yet, and doing it that way, it doesn't seem to be a worry now. So yeah, I was thoroughly impressed with it. Very, very good gun. Feels nice in the hand, nice and light, as you would expect from a mini stroke MIDI gun. But you can see the build quality here. It is really exceptional, and of course it produces excellent results. We get some footage outside, but as I say, a white's not the best color really for showing you how good a finish it is. But it is what it is, I guess. The thing had to be white and nothing else really. But yeah, thoroughly impressed with the whole gun, and enjoyed using it. So hopefully I'll get a replacement A30 for the smaller stuff, and then I can give you a proper review of that, and we'll see what it's like. And we'll when I get it, we'll do a spray out and just make sure that the fan's okay and everything's working all right, and we'll keep you up to date. So this is I'm trying here, if you can see the pearlescent effect sometimes, I'm trying for a bit of sun. This was done in February, I think, this year. Yeah, probably February this year. It was 10 degrees Celsius, so it wasn't particularly warm, but it worked out fine. And there you can see the pearlescent effect slightly of the white, but it's, as I say, it's a boring colour really to try and excite you with. But anyway, all you can do is rely on me telling you that it actually came out really well. This is off the gun. All the stuff you see at the end of the videos is all off the gun, so if there's any denibbing or anything to do, polishing up, then I would do that at a later stage. I don't think it's fair to show you the finished polished product, because it's not what the idea of me is to show you what the gun can produce, rather than showing you what I can produce after a polish, because in reality you could probably do that with most guns, get a good finish in the end. It would just take you a lot longer and be far less satisfying as well, because you'd end up using much more time actually flattening and polishing rather than spraying. Anyway guys, thanks as always for watching. Cheers. You keep watching, I'll keep them coming. Bye bye.